to everyone who joined us. I know there's a lot of things everybody could be doing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening, and you decided to join us. So we really have a great agenda for you, and we have some great speakers. So we're just excited to have you here. And so I'll just go through a few housekeeping items. So first of all, attendees can see and hear only the speaker. So we can't see you, even though you can see us and you can't see each other. The webinar will be recorded and it's going to be distributed via email. So if you have to leave early or if you showed up a little late, we will send that out so you can watch it at a time that's convenient for you. If you have any questions at all throughout the program, please use the Q&A feature to ask these questions. We'll wait towards the end, and so you will have a chance to have your questions answered. So go ahead and just use that feature, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. So just want to share the agenda with you. We can get to the next slide. There we go. So this is what the evening is going to look like. We're going to talk first about the opportunity and legacy giving for the LGBTQ community. Roger Dowdy, the president of Horizons, will be doing this. We'll be talking about how to make a legacy gift. And so we have our resident expert, Alma Sunjibek, who will be able to talk to you a little bit about how to make those gifts. We're going to hear from some of our volunteer donors who have really donated a lot of time and energy to be part of this campaign and this part of this event tonight. And we're just so excited to have them here to share their stories and hopefully inspire you. We'll do a Q&A and then we'll talk about some resources that are available to the group. So now that we've gone through the agenda, we can go ahead and kick it off with our 40 years in community video. Many of you here tonight, I'm sure, are very familiar with Horizons, but maybe there are some of you who haven't heard of Horizons yet. And so we want to give you a little bit of background and the breadth of work that we have done over the last 40 years.
Horizons Foundation was there for the National Center for Lesbian Rights when we were a preschooler at 4 years old.
Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. No one with AIDS has been cured.
We experienced extraordinary grief and really incalculable loss. And yet we continued and we moved forward. And we showed a kind of strength and determination that I think ought to inspire anybody in the world. And I want to thank Horizons Foundation for all the work they've done, all the money they've raised, all the hands they've held for so many years.
Horizons Foundation's investments has really changed societal perceptions and attitudes toward the LGBT community.
Thanks to all of you at Horizon Foundation for 3 years of remarkable leadership.
From early supporters of our work like Horizons, we have expanded our relationships to truly build a powerful trans and gender nonconforming movement.
It could be a losing battle here for the folks that want no to Prop 8.
A federal judge has overturned California's same-sex marriage ban. It's now expected to go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
We have read from the bench there is a right to marriage equality. I repeat, speaking to you from the steps of the Supreme Court.
Horizons has a dream, and that dream is to build a world where all people, including LGBT people, live free from prejudice and discrimination.
We don't have to wait to get to heaven to have heaven. We have the ability to bring heaven to earth.
Hello, I'm Roger Dowdy, President of Horizons Foundation, and thank you so very much for joining us this evening and for taking time out of your days to learn about such an important topic. In the next, about 7 minutes or so, what I'm going to do is to share with you a little bit about why legacy giving is so important and legacy planning for LGBTQ people, to talk about some of the impact that legacy giving can have, and also to share with you what our opportunity as a community is to change the world for generations to come. There are two reasons why legacy planning is so important for LGBTQ people, and it's important for all people, but especially for LGBTQ people. And there are two reasons for this. One is simply that it gives you the opportunity to have control over what happens to whatever assets you've accumulated during your lifetime. You can make sure that you take care of those that you love, your spouse, partner, friends, family, all those who matter to you. And you can also make sure that those assets don't go to places that you don't particularly want them to go, be that to the government and taxes that you really didn't have to pay, or to relations who maybe were not as supportive of you as they might have been. So the first reason is that it gives you control. The second reason is because you can have a profound impact on the world through legacy giving. For many of us, my husband and I included, we expect to be able to make gifts from our estates that are significantly larger than anything that we could make during our lifetimes. And whether you choose to leave a part of your estate to charity or all of it, your legacy itself, that becomes part of the story of your life, about what you cared about, what you valued, what were you a part of, and how is it that you would like to be remembered. And the impact that your legacy gifts can have could be in any area that moves you, that you're passionate about. And maybe that's services for young people. It could be the arts, it could be an educational institution. And all of those are wonderful things to support. And at Horizons Foundation, we believe that as LGBTQ people, we have a special opportunity. And that opportunity exists for our community because the truth is nobody else is going to do it. And we, of course, have many, many allies. And we love our allies and we are grateful for all of the support that they provide us. But both research that Horizons has done, as well as just what one would expect, the great majority of support for LGBTQ organizations and causes has come, does come, and will come from LGBTQ people ourselves. Now, for a lot of us, thinking about the community in our estate plans comes fairly easily because this community was there for us at some time during our own journeys. That's something we hear at Horizons often from people thinking about their legacy plans, is people are looking for a way to give back. And most of us have been supported by the community at one time or another. Maybe it was a support group that you went to at a time in your life when you needed it. Maybe it was because you were able to find support during the HIV epidemic for whatever reason, you or your partner, people you loved. Or maybe it's because now you know that you live with rights and protections, as we all do, that we never ever would have had we not had a strong and powerful LGBT community and movement. Very few of us have been untouched by this community, and legacy giving can be an extraordinarily powerful way to give back. But let me be clear, this isn't really about obligation. This is about opportunity. We have all been a part of history, anybody who is joining this call tonight, and perhaps few more so than those who came of age during very roughly the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, what we generally call the Stonewall generations. You have been a part of history that never took place on the planet before these times. You may help make dramatic progress towards a world in which, in the words of Horizons Foundation's vision statement, all LGBTQ people can live freely and fully. Maybe you joined in a protest sometime. Maybe you were somebody who helped to gather signatures, or maybe when the epidemic was upon us, you helped somebody else at a time when much of the rest of the world didn't seem to care. Or maybe you just came out in whatever ways that you could, but one more courageous person taking a courageous step to make sure the world understood that we exist and that we are indeed truly everywhere. We have achieved astonishing progress. But let's face it, that progress is not complete. And our progress is incomplete when hard research tells us hard truths, such as LGBTQ people are more likely to go hungry, are more likely to be unhoused, are more likely to drop out of school, to not have access to competent medical care. And of course, our progress is incomplete when we know that in legislatures around the country, just this year, bill after bill after bill has targeted our community. And when the Supreme Court is looking at the Roe v. Wade decision, both in itself and possibly for the right to privacy, on which so many other things hinge as well. And one more thing. We learn through painful experience that no matter how far we may progress, none of us, no matter how smart we are, no matter how foresighted, we cannot predict what the future is going to bring. And through our legacy gifts together, we can change the world for future generations. We can make sure that those who follow us have the resources to meet whatever the challenges of tomorrow may be. And if you choose to make your legacy gift as an endowed gift, then your gift becomes an honored part of Horizon's LGBTQ Community Endowment Fund, which today, because of the gifts that people have made into it, is generating hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, going to the community year in and year out. And in time, as more people are able to make gifts into the endowment fund, that will become millions of dollars that will go to our community and organizations and causes to meet whatever the needs of the future are, guaranteed year in and year out. As I've been saying, we together can change the world through our legacy gifts. And that'll be because of choices made by thousands of us, individuals, couples, families, to include the community in our estate plans. And what we can accomplish can be spectacular. It will touch, change, and save thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lives. Let me tell you what I mean by spectacular. It is estimated that $9 trillion, that's trillion with a T, will be left to charity from estates in this country in the next 10 years, $9 trillion. If we assume that we are, LGBTQ people, are 3% of that population, which is a fairly conservative estimate, 3% of 9 trillion is $270 billion. Or since it's over 10 years, that would be about $27 billion a year. If we are able, collectively, all of us, if we are able to gift even 2% of that amount, just 1/50th, we would be generating $500 million a year to support the LGBTQ community, both in the Bay Area and far beyond. And that, there's a word that I rarely use because it is so overused that sometimes people don't hear it anymore. And that word is transformative. But here I will use it because this kind of opportunity can be transformative for our community. It can ensure that our rights that we've won, that they're protected, that the rights that we haven't won, that we're able to win, to make sure that there are services and support for all LGBTQ people, that our youth and our elders are taken care of, that we have the capacity to meet whatever the future brings. And creating this capacity, this forever capacity, to be one of our community's truly towering achievements and a magnificent gift to future generations. Thank you again for joining us and for considering including the community in your legacy plans. Every legacy gift of whatever size, of whatever kind, is testimony to another LGBTQ person or couple or family's vision. And every LGBTQ legacy gift is also a profound statement of pride. Again, thank you for being with us. And I would now like to introduce, I have the honor of introducing our expert, a well-known and highly regarded estate planning attorney here in the Bay Area, Alma Sungibek.
Thank you, Roger. 안녕하세요, 여러분. Hello, everyone. I'm Alma Sungibek. I am an estate planner and trust attorney. I've been doing this work since the early 2000s. And I'm here to talk a little bit about legacy giving in the context of the Horizons Foundation. Back in the early 2000s, when I decided to go into, I was trying to figure out kind of what the next step would be in my legal career, and I was not interested in litigation. So I was really looking to see what the community needs were. And really for the LGBTQ community, estate planning and trust was one of the huge needs at the time. So this was long before there were any kind of default rights of inheritance or default rights of control with relating to healthcare or finances that were available for same-sex couples or any other LGBTQ families. And so here I am today, 20 plus years later, and I am delighted to have been involved with Horizons Foundation for a number of years. And I just recently stepped down as one of the co-chairs of the Professional Advisors Circle. You can find out more information about the circle. I'll talk about that in my talk. So bear with me a minute. What I want to do is just do a little bit of review about what we mean when we're talking about legacy giving. And we're talking about people's estate planning. And really the question in estate planning and legacy giving is, what is it? And what does it consist of? And really it's the plan that we have for what's going to happen to our stuff. That's, of course, the official legal definition that I learned in law school. What happens to our stuff? Just kidding. And, the plan for what happens to our stuff, a lot of people think about the wills and trusts that we do, but I like to start the conversation with beneficiary designations, because we have a number of assets often that have a way that you can designate beneficiaries that would not be going through our wills or trusts. And so if you could go to the next slide, some of the big examples are IRAs and 401ks and 403bs, 457 deferred compensation plans. Often when people are thinking about legacy giving, I often will suggest that people start here because, one of the things that we do as estate planners is also think about tax implications and tax planning. And these assets, unless they're a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, are pre-tax money. So whoever receives it when we pass away, they receive it having to pay tax. But if it's going to a charitable organization like Horizons, then because of the tax exemption from income tax, they don't have to pay taxes. So my $100,000 IRA or my $1 million IRA, if it goes to Horizons, they get all of it. Whereas if it goes to a person, it's going to be subject to whatever their income tax bracket is. The other thing is that even people who have full estate plans written by a lawyer, like a will package or a trust package, sometimes they forget about their IRAs and 401ks and other kinds of retirement tax deferred accounts. So I think it's just at some level, this whole talk that I'm doing is like a friendly reminder to not forget about these important assets. And, the big question, of course, in your estate planning is, who does it make sense to leave it to? And often, if you are charitably inclined and if you're interested in Horizons Foundation, this would be a good place to start. All right. The other kinds of tax beneficiary designation accounts include such assets as annuities, commercial annuities, life insurance policies, and then anything else that would have a beneficiary designation. Sometimes there are assets that you might not think about. Like some people have long-term care policies that have a death benefit in the event you don't use all of the long-term care needs of the policy. Sometimes there's beneficiary designations on things like stock options and restricted stock units. So just take a look when you're actually thinking with your estate planning lawyer. I would recommend people getting an estate planning lawyer to at least consult about what it is you might need and whether it needs to be updated. I recommend that people actually talk to their attorney at least every 3 to 5 years just to see what has changed in their life and what has changed in the tax and the probate laws. And then make sure that you're thinking about all of your assets, including the ones that would not pass through your will or trust, anything with the beneficiary. All right, next slide, please. So then we have everything else. And everything else falls under the category of what would pass under your will, what would pass under your revocable living trust. If you don't have these documents, then it passes under the estate plan that the state has set up for you, which is whoever your next of kin is. I think that even with marriage equality and domestic partnership rights of inheritance, it's crucial for everybody, but in particular, people in our community, the LGBTQ community, to have documents that are clear about who gets what, who's inheriting, who's not inheriting, who your next of kin is, because you might not be talking to your next of kin, but they have a right to be notified when you pass away. And so your executor or your trustees are going to have to notify them, and being clear in documents about inheritance and disinheritance is really crucial. It isn't just people in the LGBTQ community who have these issues. It comes up with people across communities, but this is a friendly reminder to make sure that your documents are clear. And of course, that's where you can talk directly about leaving legacy gifts to organizations like Horizons. And this is where we get into just direct gifts, where you just say, when I pass away, or when me and my spouse or me and my partner pass away, then X percentage or a certain dollar amount goes to Horizons or another organization. Okay, I have a third bullet there, which is just a reminder that when you do your estate plan, it's really important that you also do it completely. So these powers of attorney for finances and for healthcare, these are crucial for when you're alive, but maybe unable to manage your own finances or healthcare. It's not directly related to legacy giving, but it is related to making sure you're taking care of yourself and the people around you, your partner, your spouse, your loved ones, your children, to make sure you're clear about who's going to actually make those decisions while you're still alive, but unable to manage those. All right, next slide. All right, the last slide we have here is about charitable trusts. So in more complicated estate planning, we will sometimes talk with clients about charitable trusts. The two main kinds of charitable trusts are remainder trusts and lead trusts. And a charitable remainder trust is a trust that says people get payments over a period of time, and then the remainder goes to charity. A lead trust is where the charity is the lead. So a charity gets payments over a period of time, and then people get the remainder. And then sometimes the lead can be based upon the actual lifetime of that lifetime beneficiary or beneficiaries, or you can just set it for a term, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, whatever. Now, there are certain circumstances where these are particularly good estate planning tools to consider. Charitable remainder trusts, we see them most often in the case of property that's sold with a large built-in gain. So your apartment building or your income property that you've owned for more than 5 or 10 or 20 years, there's a lot of built-in gain because you bought it for, like maybe $100,000 in San Francisco 20 years ago, and now it's worth several million. That if you sell it, you have to recognize that gain and pay the capital gains tax on it. But a charitable remainder trust is a tool that could help you lower that potential capital gains tax while also benefiting charity at the end. And so what you're doing is you're leveraging the fact that charities get 100% charitable deduction. And so if a charity has a partial interest, the remainder interest, it gets a certain percentage value, you get a charitable deduction for that, and thus you get some income tax deduction for it as well. Sometimes charitable remainder trusts are used in people's testamentary documents. So they'll actually write it in their will that it's created upon passing away. Those get a little bit more complicated. You have to do some math to figure out, is there going to be enough money to pay the estate taxes and expenses? Anyway, this is something that's good for you to talk about with your estate planning lawyer to see if it seems something relevant for you. And then the other tool is the charitable lead trust. Now, we really like the charitable lead trust because this is what we use to help zero out the gift tax and the estate tax. So friendly reminder that there's a gift tax and estate tax for gifts and bequests above 12.06 million per person in 2022. And then you subtract from that what you've gifted during your life for lifetime gifts. And there are certain 100% deductions. One of them is to your spouse. There's 100% marital deduction, and there's also 100% charitable deduction. So we don't need to go too much into the weeds there, but mostly that if there's someone down a generation like your kids or your nieces and nephews, maybe you want to provide something for them now and then something for them 20 or 30 years later, you can set up a charitable lead trust to have lead gifts for a number of years go to charity, and then the remainder go to people. So the most important thing is to get counsel and to see your counsel every 3 to 5 years to make sure that things are updated, that you've checked your beneficiary designations. If you're looking for new counsel, my top suggestion is Horizons Foundation Professional Advisors Circle. You can actually find our directory online on the Horizons Foundation website. And there's some other sources. That San Francisco Bay Area has a local LGBTQ bar association called Bailiff. It's the oldest bar association for LGBTQ folks in the country. And the LGBTQ plus bar is the National Association of Bar Associations. So if you're looking for someone outside of the Bay Area, they might be able to point you in the right direction. All right, so hopefully that was enough of a refresher to get you excited about thinking about your legacy. And I'll turn it over to the next.
Thank you so much, Alma. It's always really great to hear from you and just learn from your expertise. And that was very informative. So I really, really appreciate hearing you. So in a few minutes, we're going to hear from some folks who have taken that step and have included Horizons in their legacy planning. But first, I would like to share a video with you with just a few stories of people who we like to call members of our legacy circle. And these are folks who have committed in some way, shape, or another a legacy gift to Horizons. So we'll go ahead and show that video now.
The reason I've supported Horizons Foundation all these years is simply because I've trusted them for all these years.
A legacy gift is an opportunity that the Horizons Foundation gives as a means to continue to support the organization after our lifetimes.
It's important for us who have the ability to donate money to make sure that this work goes on, for generations to come.
It's only after time that I've even realized how powerful a little acorn like a legacy gift can become when it grows into a huge tree.
I feel confident that they are always in alignment with the kinds of goals that Richard and I have for our own queer community to exist and to flourish in the future.
The LGBTQ community is who I am. It's my family. How can you expect Horizons to continue the work if you aren't willing to continue and step up your gift and your work? Because that's your part of the deal.
Pride Forever, for me, means that we need to be thinking about the long term. And it's important to lay that foundation for the future and to take care of the future as much as we need to take care of today.
We have total confidence that Horizons Foundation will be around to do the work that will be needed in the future when we're not around.
All right, I've seen that video several times and I could just watch it over again because I just, these are just some really great people. So if I can go ahead and have Richard and Bill and Dipti and Maggie turn their cameras and their mics on. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. These are some of our some Horizons. I don't even want to say donors, but family members in a lot of ways, because you're so intertwined with Horizons in so many different ways, and we're really lucky to have you in our orbit and part of our circle. And so thank you so much for participating in the video and for being here tonight. And I have a couple questions for you, and then if people in the audience have questions for them as well, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A. So the first question that I just wanted to ask is, what inspired you to make a legacy gift? And we can go ahead and kick off with Dipti and Maggie, and then Richard and Bill, if you want to answer after that, that would be great.
I think for us, making a legacy gift was just the next step. It was about trying to have a plan for all the organizations that we supported during our lives. So when we actually did separate trusts because we did our trust before marriage equality. And I remember we thinking like, well, what are we going to do for all these organizations? And we had put Horizons as one of the organizations that we would leave a gift to. And Then later, we decided to have a donor advised fund and found that, and got to know Horizons work a lot better and realized that, you know, they have such an expertise beyond either of us that we felt confident that after 40 years of supporting the LGBT community, that they would be able to continue this work for a lot longer than we could.
Yeah, I think Dipti's got it when she says continue the work long after we're gone. But I think it just feels good. Certainly, you know, it just feels good. And when we were sitting down going through year after year our taxes and looking at where we're making our charitable deductions, it just made sense to think about, well, what happens when we're not working on these tax returns anymore? You know, what happens when the last one is done? And so, and then we had an experience with a friend who did not leave a legacy gift, and his assets were not distributed according to his wishes. And so with that as a bookend, we decided we needed to really put pen to paper and make that happen.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you see someone go through a situation that was maybe not so good. Which leads me to my next question, actually, which is how you initiated this conversation with your spouse and your family. Because, you know, I know we've talked about this a little bit, that it can feel, you know, uncomfortable to think about or kind of awkward to think about. And so I'm just curious to know just how this, you know, how the conversation started and how you were able to bring it up to each other. And we can go ahead and kick off with Richard and Bill, and then we'll go back to Dipti and Maggie.
Okay, let's see, it's not as much that it's as difficult to talk about. For us, it's difficult to figure out, perhaps. We knew in global terms that we wanted to take care of our biological families, and that we want that for us, what's just as important actually is our family of choice, which by and large is part of the queer community. And so it was trying to figure out how to do that. And actually it was a great comfort to know that Horizons, which has been there for so long, we know them well, Richard was on the board for many years, has built this solid foundation. So we feel like, oh, we can be confident that they're going to be there in a number of years and be able to help us out. So it's through, I think that the conversation was more tricky around how to do something, and in a way, Horizons really furnishes us with a kind of ready-made vehicle.
Great.
I was going to say everything that Bill already said. He took the words out of my mouth, but really the conversations were very natural as we were going through our estate planning and thinking about where we wanted to leave our assets and who our beneficiaries were going to be. It was very much a combination of our biological families and our chosen family. And I don't think there was any, it just seemed, frankly, in a way so obvious to us that this is a community that we've been a part of, that we're very grateful to be a part of. And they're very much family. And what that family looks like, the interesting thing and the compelling thing about having Horizons be a beneficiary is that, you know, we have a couple of other organizations that we've also named as beneficiaries. The unique thing about Horizons is that they're a chosen family, but we may not even know where this money is going to. You know, we can't even think about the causes, for example, the causes that Horizons will be funding in the future. And that's what we like, because we don't know what you know, where the needs of the community are going to be 30, 40 years after we're gone, right? But we trust that Horizons does know, and we trust that Horizons will be there. And that's really important for us, is knowing that Horizons and believing in Horizons as a steward of the community and of how we want to be supporting that community.
So that actually, you know, that kind of Y'all are really good at this conversation because it keeps segueing into the next question that I have. And you did touch on this some, but I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add of why, you know, how did Horizons make it to your list? You know, why Horizons when you could really, you know, there's so many great organizations out there. And, you know, you have a lot of, it's like, you know, you have a lot of options. So if there's, and like I said, I know you elaborated a little bit on that, but you know, why Horizons?
You know, for me, I say for us, Horizons has made the cut. It has walked the walk and talked the talk. It started from our community here in the Bay Area, from a business group that's still around. But Horizons has gone beyond just even the dreams and hopes of the business folks that started it. And it continues to inspire. I mean, our pivot to working with and recognizing the leadership that our trans brothers and sisters have for us is just, for me, a great example of how we were fighting for our lives while our trans brothers and sisters were fighting as well. And now we know that, and Horizons has pivoted to help in that fight. And that's just an example of something I wouldn't have known necessarily, and how it's earned its stripes.
So my, you know, relationship with Horizons has gone through many different iterations, and the first one was Horizons giving us giving an organization I belonged to at the time $500 donation of a grant that no one had ever given us, and they got us off the ground. And that organization still continues to exist today. So that's the first thing, is the longevity of Horizons. And then if you see, you know, that video that was shown in the beginning, you see the organizations and see the movements that Horizons has touched through the years. And I am confident they will continue to be there to touch the movements in the future. In fact, they're way ahead of where, you know, other people are looking at working on issues. So that said, you know, it was really, for me, it was a no-brainer. It is the largest LGBT community foundation. It is the oldest one in the Bay Area, at least. And I know it well. So I would encourage people who are thinking about it, even in the early stages, firstly, speak with Candace and her team. And, you know, you want to know more about the organizations, speak with Francisco. They are both really well equipped to show you the actual work that's being done, and, you know, see if this is an organization that fits your needs for legacy giving.
So I have kind of I'm going to move to a technical question, and then I'm going to get a little bit more into a little bit more of a feelings question. So in terms of, you know, setting up, you know, maybe a complex legacy giving plan, or, you know, finding the right attorney, all the kind of technical pieces that go along with setting this up. Can you just maybe talk a little bit about how that was for you, and if it, you know, did feel a little bit complicated, and maybe kind of how you moved through just the technicalities of this piece? Because it feels really good, but it's like, okay, I have work and I got to put things on my calendar to do this. So, and we can start with Richard and Bill on this one.
Yeah, well, we definitely had to walk before we ran. I will say that when we became domestic partners, it's like, whoa, now we have to worry about how this property is going to be split if something happens to us. And as we moved through the years, it became obvious to us that we just couldn't not see it. But we're good at not seeing some things that we don't want to sit down and do. You know, so we've just recently revisited our trust to refresh it. We both have folks that have disabilities in our families, and so those complex things that we've learned, you know, are part of life that we've been privileged to see. There was a time when we wondered, you know, are we even going to be around? But we've been privileged to have to think about But what happens to someone who's got disability? What happens to someone who isn't able to take care of themselves? And we've seen what happens to someone's estate when they don't do anything, when they kind of, for whatever reasons, just can't bring it together to say, put pen to paper and do something. Families swoop in that we've never met, and everything we know that person would have wanted to have happened just can't once it's too late. So that motivated us. It's still hard to do.
Yeah, I think Alma might have used the word inertia. I'm not sure. It's a good one. It's one of those things that I don't know. Maybe it is procrastination, but inertia is such a good word. It's like it's just not at the top of the list always, and it becomes so important. It can be a joy finally when you get to name a group like an organization like Horizons. That's a joy. The rest of it's a work, but I think just that personal little bit of prioritizing and taking care of ourselves and seeing it as that, what do we want to happen to this? Because if we don't decide, this is the bigger question, I guess, just in terms of the whole estate planning. I mean, the state of California will, but also, just being able, we did have that my best friend actually, who passed away unexpectedly without any kind of documentation. And the estate went to a family back east, and it was kind of tragic, but what a wake-up call. And there really is a joy in getting it done, getting over the finish line and naming a group like Horizons.
Thank you so much. Yes, I can imagine maybe there was a big glass of wine after that was done. Dipti and Maggie. Oh, you're on mute.
So I think for us, main thing was we got a good lawyer. But the initial thing about what made us do it was I am a financial advisor and have been for 34 years. And for many of the early years, I did not have a will. But I always talked to my clients about having one. And I always, it was like the physicians that they're last to treat themselves. I was that way. But at some point I realized that I don't want that same story that Bill is telling, that someone died intestate. I didn't want that to be me, the financial advisor who didn't take her own advice. And that's really what motivated me to start talking about getting a will, writing it down, and and talking to a good lawyer. And that really is where it all started. And I think the professional advisory group is definitely a good place to start. But some things have been simplified because of marriage equality. So there are a fair number of lawyers who can do estate planning for us. But I think the main thing is to get off the inertia and don't wait for something personal to happen, close to you to make you move on it. So it's just, I think it's best to just get it done. And it's actually wasn't that painful to get it done. It was pretty easy.
I appreciate that. Those our to-do lists can just pile up if we let them. So before I go to my last question, I just want to remind the folks joining us tonight that you can drop your questions in the Q&A feature for me, Roger, our legacy donors, or just whatever questions you might have. So the last question I have is, thinking about what things were like when you came out, and maybe kind of in your prime years of being a queer person, or like just those early years, and thinking about kind of everything that's happened since then. What is your hope for the future? So when you think about your legacy gift, what's your hope with that? What's the vision of the life that you hope that your gift will impact? Yeah, you can take a minute to think about it if you want.
Well, I think of other examples in other communities that have done this and have been there and have been so successful. And I keep thinking of something that I love, and that's National Public Radio, and that huge gift that the San Diego philanthropist has left to them, and how much that has meant for information and for truth telling. And I think we just need a little bit of time. We're on our way. You know, once we were not a people, now a people we are. And now we are ready to do for ourselves, make our decisions around where our assets go when we're not here. And then finally, for me, just to think about those queer kids and folks, people I will never meet, what it will mean to them to know that they were thought of.
Dickie or maybe?
I think it's the same as Richard was saying, is like having this feeling that you're going to be touching people and affecting people's lives in a positive way that you will never meet, you will never know because you won't be alive. You know, just knowing that it goes that far is a good feeling. It's a good feeling to know that you've stretched that dollar and it's gone into generations away from you. And, you know, and that's, to me, that's the best thing about charity, is to give it away and not have it, not be attached to it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
no,
ahead.
simply put, we all want to leave this world and hope that it in a better state than it, you know, was when we first sort of experienced it, particularly, you know, as we came out, right? And when we were coming out, you asked specifically about that time frame. And we think that, you know, well, that is the case for many people right now. Unfortunately, you know, the struggle continues, right? And there's still so much more work to do. And so we feel like it's, you know, as important now as it was 30, 40 years ago. Because I think some people can ask themselves, right, that we've made so much progress. Is there really need for us to be sort of dedicating, you know, our support to this community, given, you know, we have more rights now. But, you know, it doesn't take much to just, you know, listen to NPR or anything at any given day to recognize that there's just so much more work to be done and so much more to fight for.
And I just wanted to add the fact that, you know, Maggie and I are both come from immigrant backgrounds. And so our world is bigger than the United States. And I feel like there's ways for Horizons to even affect that. And so things are not that great for everybody around the world. And so we are always reminded of that. And I think that with, you know, and Horizons definitely has an ability to affect certain international work too. So I feel like there's no reason not to leave your legacy gift with a foundation like Horizons.
I thank you so much for putting things into perspective in that way. It's really appreciate that, and definitely I wholeheartedly agree. Something that I've heard a couple of times just in my role as Chief Philanthropy Officer, when folks are talking to me about, you know, possibly establishing a legacy gift, is that, you know, this was the community that was there for them when they came out, and so they want to make sure that, you know, the next generation feels that same thing. And so I am always moved by that, that kind of, you know, paying it forward. So I think we have time for one more question, and we have a question for Alma, if Alma can join us again. So what, Alma, what are a couple of common pitfalls you see that people encounter, maybe as they start to think about this?
So I was thinking about this, like, sometimes people, you know, I was thinking about what Bill was saying about inertia, and, you know, sometimes we get like perfectionist about our estate plans and our financial plans, and it can immobilize us. So often what I'll say to people is, it just needs to be good enough, but you just need to move, like take the first step. Sometimes we get kind of stuck in our isolation, and that's one of the things that will freeze us. And for this one, I would say get a good financial advisor, because then you have someone like Dipti telling you to get your estate plan done. And you're actually planning for yourself and for your family and for your partner and your spouse, and thinking about kind of like how you're going to be living out the rest of your life through retirement. So those are some things. And I think trust is a big issue. Like you want to find an attorney you feel comfortable with and that you trust, but also everyone here on this panel has talked about the trust that we have in Horizons, and actually everything everyone said really resonated with me as well. Like, I don't know, in 10, 20, 50 years, what LGBTQ cause is going to be crucial at the time, but I bet Horizons will, because they have a legacy of having already figured it out over the last 40. So you really want a good team around you. I think that's really the key, like with the people that you're planning with, whether it's your spouse and your partner, as well as, a good community foundation and good advisors like financial advisors.
So thank you. I love practical advice. It speaks to me, and I appreciate that so much. So we're running close to the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and thank our panelists so much for being here, for your time, your energy, your effort. We're so deeply appreciative of everything you do for Horizons. And I'm going to go ahead and I just love hearing from everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and just hand it over to Roger, who's going to close us out.
Hello again. Thank you so much, Candace, and thank you, Alma, Maggie, Dipti, Bill, and Richard. That was a really wonderful opportunity to hear from your own stories and your own perspectives about what matters. And all of us, of course, have our own stories, as families, as individuals, as couples. So no one is the same. But I know that I heard so many points of connection and contact with some of the things you shared. I really appreciate it. I hope that some of you who are with us on this felt the same way. So we wanted to close out with a couple of things. One is just to let you know about some of the resources that are available through Horizons Foundation for you to tap into if you will find those useful. So one of them is that, as Alma referred to, we have a professional advisors directory, which you can access online. And I believe that this is being put into the chat. You can access online to find people who, as financial advisors, as estate planning attorneys, and other professionals, have deep familiarity with the LGBTQ community. So people like Alma, Dipti, and others. In addition, there's a resource on our website called Free Will. And what that does is it actually allows you to make a simple will on your own. And it does not take very long. Again, it is a fairly simple will. It is not something that, if you have a complex situation at all, it's probably not the best thing for you to use. That's where you really do need to talk to a professional, as we have been saying. But it's a terrific tool if you just want to do something simple, and even if that's like a stopgap, before you get an opportunity to meet with somebody like Alma or other people. The third thing that we do is we just call it philanthropic consulting. And this is something that we love as much as anything to do at Horizons, because it's always a joy to talk to people about what it is they would like to do, what they would like to do to support, what they would like to support in the community. And because we're a community foundation, we work with literally hundreds of organizations, both in the Bay Area, across the country, and a little bit in other parts of the world. And so we are delighted to talk about, well, what might be some of your strongest interests? Where do your passions lie? And if those lie in a particular area, to help you think about, well, what kind of focus might you want to have in there? Are there particular organizations that you would like to see get that support? It's, as Horizons Foundation, of course, it's wonderful when people give to the Horizons Community Endowment Fund, because that's an endowment fund for everybody and for all of us. But we also just want to hope and make sure that people have the opportunity to give to our community, wherever it is, whether it's Horizons or some other organization or organizations, for what moves you, because that ultimately is what matters. And all of the services that Horizons offer in this regard, they're free. well, there's no charge that goes with it, there's no obligation. It's just a privilege for us to have those conversations with anybody. So please take that opportunity. And also, I believe that one other thing that is going into the chat is a way to actually make schedule an appointment, a time to talk with one of us at Horizons. And again, through a function called Calendly. And again, this is only for support purposes. We're just happy to talk to you. There's no obligations whatsoever. And we're delighted to be able to help you in any way that we can. So please feel free to sign up for one of those if you wish. In closing, I was thinking, we live in a kind of either or world a lot of the time. And legacy giving is actually a place where it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both. Because legacy planning is a vital and exciting opportunity for you as individuals or as a couple or as a family or however it is you would be thinking about this, as we talked about earlier on, to just have control over what it is that happened and not have a situation like Bill's friend, where something happened that he probably would not have wanted to have happen. And it's also this tremendous opportunity for us as a community, an extraordinary opportunity for us, as I said before, to create really one of the towering achievements that our community can have. And all of us have a potential role to play in that. So in closing, thank you again so very, very much for joining us. We hope that you'll avail yourself of some of the resources. And most importantly, thank you for thinking of our community and for considering including our community in your own legacy plans. You really can help change the world. Thank you again and good evening.